Hi, I'm Harry,
And I'm Holly.
and we just wanted to say, welcome to chapel!
Is that it? Go Lucas.
We just wanted to introduce Mufti Day for this term, which is going to be on the Friday, the 3rd of July.
And the theme is wear something second-hand, thrifted, or borrowed from a friend.
Oh, that's it. Righto, what a great announcement. What day was it again?
Friday, the 3rd of July.
Friday the 3rd of July. And what do you have to wear? Something second hand.
Or borrowed from a friend.
Or thrifted.
Sounds a bit dangerous during COVID, but anyway. Alright, it is time to go to Say Something, and we had a special guest presenter this week. Enjoy.
Say something, say something, say something now.
So I'm going to be taking over for Gossy this week for Say Something. So let's go see what people have to say. Nicole, I've got a question for you. The question for today is, what's the nicest thing anyone's ever done for you when you were going through a tough time?
Compliment my eyes.
That's sweet. You do have nice eyes. You do have nice eyes. She does, Goss.
Well, I was looking really bad one day and someone actually came up to me and they're like, oh my gosh, I love your hair. And I was so happy because I knew that day it just wasn't it. So, yeah.
Ooh, that's so sweet. And what did you say to them?
I was like, thank you.
They've given me food. I'm always very hungry and I have gained lots of food.
Food. You hear that, guys? Food.
Giving me chocolate.
Giving me a hug.
A hug and chocolate, guys. You hear that? Put that in your notes. A hug and chocolate. Got a question. What is the nicest thing anyone's ever done for you when you were going through a tough time?
I don't know, just been there for me and sat with me and talked. Yeah.
That's really sweet. That's really sweet. Thank you. Mate, that was a good time, and I think I might actually take over Goss's job because this is really fun and he's not very good at it. I will see you guys next time.
Say something, say something, say something now.
Alright, hey everyone, it's so good to hang out with you in this way today. This is probably going to be my first time sharing with you in chapel, and I just wanted to tell you a little bit of my story. For many years I was part of a music ministry called Endless Praise, and it was meant to be for 1 or 2 years, and it ended up being for 7 years of my life. And in EP we actually came to this school many times. We travel around for about 11 months of the year. We are on tour, and we toured right throughout Australia, New Zealand, Vanuatu, the States, South America. So we got to see a lot of the world and use music as our way of telling people about Jesus. And it was really fun, really incredible times. I was the road manager of the group, and so in the fun and the greatness of the adventure of what it was a lot. There was a lot of just the journey that we faced of having to manage a team, and we had anywhere from 4 up to 9 people in our team that you do life with 24/7, and you're away from family, and so it was a pretty hectic time. One night we were on tour in far north Queensland, and I was really struggling to breathe, and I got to a point where I was like not able to breathe, and my hands started going numb, and I was really tense around my neck and behind my neck, and I started just crying hysterically because I just didn't know what was going on. And that went on for a few hours, and I think after just pure exhaustion, I just finally fell asleep. I had the other girls from the team around me who were just praying for me and just trying to kind of understand what was happening. The next morning, we went to the local hospital in this country town, and they told me that I had had a panic attack, which may seem common to some people, but for me, I had never had something like that before, and it was completely unknown. And then they said, well, you're suffering with anxiety. And again, that was another thing that I didn't even know anyone that had suffered anxiety and had no idea what it meant, what the toll that it was taking on my body. And so that began this new journey that I was on, not voluntarily, about how to deal with this stuff, as well as being on the road, as well as doing everything that we were doing. And I sunk pretty low. There were quite a few really dark and lonely times during that season. Because I wasn't aware, I tried to read and I tried to kind of get my head around what was going on. And, people in my world, my team and my family, and, I was dating Zane at the time. Like, everyone was trying to support me as much as they could, but it was such an unknown journey that I really struggled with the thoughts that I had, the effect that it was having on my body. I'm a pretty go-getter kind of person, and there were many times when I couldn't even get out of bed. I was just really, really suffering throughout this time. And in the midst of all of that, I finally saw my own GP. I had seen a bunch of other professionals as well, and I saw my own GP, and he said to me, you know what, Priscilla, this isn't going to kill you. And in that moment, I needed to hear that. I needed to hear that I wasn't going to die from this, because I thought I was sometimes. Like, it was so devastating for me. It was so crippling that I didn't know how else to handle it. So when he told me this isn't going to kill you, I was like, okay, so what can I do in this situation? And I believe that it was none other than the strength of God that I made some decisions in my life. And I stuck to them as much as I could. And one of those decisions that I made was that I was going to go and be in the house of God, be in church as much as I could. And I didn't want to see anyone, I didn't want to talk to anyone, but I needed to be in an environment where there was hope, where there was something that was, there was talk and singing and something that was talking about something that was better and more than what I was going through at that time. Another decision that I made was that I was going to read through the scriptures and study about this thing called anxiety. So I went to Koorong and I bought this, I don't even know if they still sell it, but I bought this little study thing, and it just took me through scriptures all over the Bible about what it was for God to be your strength, for God to be your help. Another resolution that I made was that I started going on prayer walks, and I still do this to this day. I don't take a phone, I wouldn't take anything, and I would just go out and just speak to God, knowing that He was cool with whatever I said, even if it didn't make sense. And I didn't have to impress Him. I didn't have to say a certain speech or the right words. I just spoke out to God, and I was knowing that He was hearing me, and that was awesome. And this morning, in preparing for this, I went through all my journals, and that's another thing that I have done, is journal throughout this time. Now, you may laugh, but this is my journal from back in that year, and I wasn't in school. I was actually an adult, and I just love stickers. But I went through it this morning, and I actually found the day that they told me about this, and I actually wrote their anxiety in my journal, because I didn't even know what it was, and I was like, they've told me this, so that's what was happening. And I found this verse that I really believe in, and was something that my friend actually gave me, one of the other people in my team, and he wrote it for me, and I stuck it in my journal because it was something that I had to believe in the midst of all of that hurt and confusion and darkness that I was experiencing. And it's found in Isaiah 40, verse 31, and it says, "But they who wait for the Lord shall renew their strength. They shall mount up with wings like eagles. They shall run and not be weary. They shall walk and not be faint." Now, it was really hard sometimes for me to walk. It was really hard sometimes for me to even run. But this is when it was about relying on the strength that God could give me. And I really believe that He is able to do that. He's able to give you strength in the midst of a time when you don't know where you could get this strength from. Another scripture that I really love was part of the resolution, one of the final resolutions or decisions that I made. And it seems crazy. I can't believe that I had the strength to even say this, but I said, like, the enemy is going to rue the day that he messed with me doing this, because I needed to rise up, because I knew that there was going to be something more to this story than me just being completely broken and that being the end of me. And I refused to let that be the end of me. And in Romans 8:31 it says, "What then shall we say to these things? If God is for us, who can be against us?" And for me in that time, I needed to know that God was for me, that God was going to rise up inside of me. And the way that I kind of pictured that the enemy was going to rue the day, like I was so tough and confident, which I wasn't, I was so broken and hurt, was just the fact that I was going to tell this story one day, and there was going to be a better outcome to what I had already experienced. And I share this because there might be someone that you know, or maybe you yourself, that has gone through something like this. And it may not be anxiety, it may be another struggle, or it may be another moment or season in your life where you don't actually know what's going on and you don't know how to deal with it. And can I just say without a shadow of a doubt that you may not get all the answers straight away. For me, this was like nearly a 2-year journey that I went on. So it wasn't overnight. This was something that, and if I look over the pages of my journal, like I wrote so many times, today was a hard day. And then other times, today was a good day. And then other times, the morning was hard, but then it got better. And that was the season that I was in. But the point was that I kept trying to take those steps in the strength of Christ. Janelle's going to come up later on and share some tips as well as to how to kind of walk through this journey as well. And we as a wellbeing team want to support you through this time. This happened 8 years ago for me, so it's been a long time that I've gone through this journey. I'm more aware of the signs and symptoms of my body. I'm more aware of what it is that I've journeyed through. And if there's any way that we can support you, we'd love to do that. But better than us is God, who can give you the strength that you need. When no one else is around, He is there. And in whatever way you reach out to Him, I know that He's able to give you this strength like none other. I would love to pray for us all right now, and pray for you who might be hearing this and it may have resonated with you. Know that you are not alone, and that there's a team of people here that want to support you, but there is a God who is able to support you. And then we're going to hear an awesome praise and worship song by U10. So let's just bow our heads and close our eyes wherever we're at. Dear God, thanks for this time that I could share this, God. And thank you that you were with me, Lord. I'm still so grateful for that. Jesus, I pray that you will give strength to anyone who is seeking it right now, whether they realize that it's from you or not. I pray that you give them what they need to get through this day and tomorrow and the next. Thank you that we can call out to you, and thank you, Jesus, that you are with us. We love you. Amen.
Worship you.
Even when I don't feel that you're working, you never stop working. You never stop working. Even when I don't see it, you're working. Even when I don't feel that you're working, you never stop working. You never stop working. Even when I don't see it, you're working. Promise keeping light in the darkness, my God, that is working. You never stop working. Waymaker, miracle worker, promise keeper, light in the darkness, my God, that is who you are. You are waymaker, miracle worker, promise keeper, light in the darkness, my God, that is who you are. You are here, waymaker, miracle worker, promise keeper, light in the darkness, my God, that is who you are. You are here, waymaker, miracle worker, promise keeper, light in the darkness, my God, that is who you are.
Oh, all right. Oh, fantastic. Thanks, Year 10, for that special item. Really appreciate it. And I kind of want to just drag everybody back into the headspace that Priscilla invited us into with her talk. So thanks, Priscilla. And it's just that thing. Some of us are struggling and some of us aren't. And struggling, what happens when we're struggling? And so we're inviting Janelle in to do that with us, but we've got a bit of an activity with you guys as a homeroom that you can all participate in as well. So we're looking forward to that. I want to share something from 2 Samuel chapter 22, and David, who's this character in the Bible that struggles with stuff, is struggling in this moment, and he says this, he claims this promise. God is my rock in whom I take refuge. So my question for you guys, just to get you in the right headspace for this activity is, where are your places of refuge? In terms of where are your safe places? And maybe they're people, maybe they're your friends, maybe they're your family, maybe it's a teacher here at school or somebody on the wellbeing team, possibly me. Yeah, absolutely. Lock it in, Eddie. But maybe it's also God. Maybe it's God, and you get to you feel that safe place when you're speaking to Him and pouring out your heart with Him. Maybe it's a geographical location. Maybe the safe place for you is the beach or a mountain or the bush, or maybe you live on a big property and there's a bit of property at the back where you feel safe and it's a place where you can relax and unwind. For some of you, maybe it's an activity. Maybe it's walking. Maybe it's running. Maybe swimming, surfing. I don't know. It could be anything. Where are your safe places, your places of refuge? And who are your safe people and your people of refuge? Now, I want you to take that mindset that Priscilla and I have just invited you into, and I want you to take that into this next activity. And I'm going to get Priscilla to jump back on with me and help explain the game we're all about to play. Because it's a bit of a puzzle, and if we explain it well, it should be fun, and if we don't, it'll be an absolute nightmare for the next 10 minutes. So what are we doing, Priscilla?
All right, so we want to invite some people from your homerooms, not yet, let's just explain the rules for a second, to go out to receive a piece of a puzzle, and then there's going to be some sort of a challenge. So whoever volunteers to go will need about 8 people to volunteer over the course of it. Just know that there's going to be something that you have to do in order for you to receive your puzzle. Okay, so
let's just demo it for a sec. So imagine you're Braden Halliday out on the oval. You've got a puzzle piece.
Channel Braden.
Great.
Beanie on.
You've taken it too far. And I run out to you and I say, give me that puzzle piece, Braden.
Yeah. And then Braden will say, you need to do
5-star jumps.
Yeah,
and
or something like that.
You could just do that,
yeah,
and he'll give it to you, I reckon.
So now to get started, we need 3 people. The first 3 people volunteers from every homeroom to go out to the cricket pitch.
No. Pause.
Oh, okay.
We changed that.
Oh,
because
okay.
the oval's closed. We don't want people
yes,
running
yes,
into the
yes.
middle. We've put like 6 different people around the oval in different spots. Some of them have 2, some of them have 1.
Yeah.
And you send 3 people from your homeroom at a time out to go do those activities and get those puzzle pieces. Bring them back as a homeroom, make the puzzle. As soon as you've done that, you can read the question. It's a question.
So they send 3 out, which hopefully they've already gone. And then when they return, you can send out another
next
3. And then when they
2.
return, send out your last 2, okay?
Yep.
So we're just leaving it up to teachers to make sure that that's
And
that's
are we
how it's
going
happening.
yet? We're on.
We're on. I
Go.
can see kids running,
Oh,
so
good,
go for
good,
it.
good. There's 3 people
3
from
students
7D,
should
they're out
already
there.
be out looking for their first
Get
puzzle
the puzzle
pieces.
piece.
Do the challenge and then go back. And then once you as a homeroom have all 8 of your pieces together, then
Solve the
solve
dilemma, I guess.
Yeah. Answer.
We kind of want to
answer it.
hear all your beautiful answers
Yeah.
too. So
yeah.
once you have them, get your homeroom teacher to email me and we'll be discussing some of them on the morning show next week.
Yeah.
And if your teacher thinks some of you guys have absolutely smashed it out of the park and they love it, the teachers can throw it in the comments now just before Janelle comes up.
Yeah, absolutely. That would be awesome.
And while this is happening, for everybody that's waiting for the puzzle to get made up, because there's only 3 people out, I think, are we cutting to another special item for Year 10?
So Year 10 have done another worship song. Well, it's more of a praise song.
Yeah,
I really like this one.
I like this one. It goes with your talk today, so
yeah.
I think we should cut to that. Thank you, Scully, in Year 10.
Enjoy.
That went.
At break of day, in hope we rise. We speak your name, we lift our eyes. We tune our hearts into your beats. Where we walk, there you
All right. Hey, guys. Sure, I'm live. Get him out of here. Hey. All right. Just wanted to come back on. We're about to put a few minutes countdown timer on just to help finish up this activity before Janelle shares. And thanks to Josh Sheriff, who has solved the riddle. Now, if you didn't get all the pieces, sorry about that. A bit of a coordination error there, I would imagine. Now, he's retracted the message, but just so everybody knows, each homeroom knows, you've got about 5 minutes left to work on this, and it was as determined by your homeroom. What are your top 5 tips to help someone who's struggling? So as a homeroom, I want you guys to come up with those answers. And then we're going to hear from Janelle in a couple of minutes. So everybody should be back in class now and off the oval and stop trudging around out there. And you've got the question, and I'd love to get those emails from your homeroom teachers. And if there's a couple of real great suggestions, you could throw them in the comments segment. Now, there will be a bit of a prize, and I won't tell you how that'll work. Janelle will, and she'll be on in a couple minutes. So I think Lucas is about to chuck a timer up, and that's how long you have left before Janelle comes on. Enjoy.
Okay, that looked like a whole bunch of fun, so I'm going to up the ante a little bit. I'm here to talk about some strategies that can help with anxiety, but I also know that you guys as a homeroom have been coming up with your own list. So I'm going to make this kind of a bit like a bingo. So if you as a homeroom have 5 things that I'm going to suggest out of my maybe 12, the first homeroom to put into the chat box that you've got the 5, so the teachers will be up to the teachers to put that into the chat box. You guys are going to be sharing as a homeroom this courtesy of chaplaincy, and you'll get that before the end of the period. So I guess what are some ways in terms of managing anxiety? One of, I think, the things that gets underestimated is, I guess, adopting a healthy lifestyle. So things like getting adequate sleep, refueling our body well in terms of eating well most of the time, exercising, and that could look like all forms of exercise from organised sport to dancing around at home, and also just getting out in nature and being outdoors. One of the other things that can be really helpful is considering perspective and what we call reframing. And so that's thinking about, can I see things in a different light? An example some of you have probably heard me say before is if you were out between periods and you walk past someone and you give them a wave and you say hello and they don't respond, an anxious thought might be, oh, what have I done? Have I offended them? Why aren't they talking to me? And so then from that, we'll start to worry about that and maybe even be a bit standoffish when we see them next time around, because that's the thought that we've got in our head. Reframing is thinking about, can I actually understand this from a different perspective? So in that example, it might be, well, actually, maybe they just didn't hear me. Maybe, they're daydreaming or thinking about the exam that's coming up in, 2 periods' time. So can I think of it differently in order to reduce that anxiety or worry? Something else that can be really helpful is thinking about challenging our thoughts. What are the facts to say that the way that I'm thinking is actually real or true? So maybe like, oh, that person didn't sit with me in class today because they don't like me. But maybe if I stop and think about it, I'm like, well, hang on a minute. I hung out with them on the weekend and we were texting last night. Maybe they just want to sit next to somebody else today. Or maybe that was a spare seat that was left. So challenging our thoughts with fact. Most of the time you're going to find that you'll have evidence to the contrary. Something else that can be really helpful is deep breathing or a slow breathing exercise. And typically what I'd suggest is breathing in through your nose slowly for about 5 seconds, holding the breath for about the same time, and then breathing out through your mouth, kind of like you're blowing out a candle on a cake, for 5 seconds as well, and just repeating through that cycle. And there's an app by Reach Out called Breathe that I would really strongly recommend as just having that on your phone. And even if you don't need it, maybe you'll be in a situation where you've got to help out a friend. Mindfulness is another activity that can be really helpful, and I know for some people, even just scheduling, 5 minutes of mindfulness as part of their nightly routine can be really helpful. And you can access things like Smiling Mind, but something else that can be really helpful is something called progressive muscle relaxation. And if you guys have had me come to combined homeroom, obviously pre-COVID, you would have partaked in a progressive muscle relaxation, perhaps lying on the floor where you are tightening muscles and then relaxing them. I think we might have alluded earlier in chapel today about visualisation. I think Priscilla might have been talking about this. So thinking about places where you feel really comfortable. So for me, if I'm visualising something calm, it's a rainforest, but for other people it might be something different. So for me, it's a rainforest with maybe a stream, and then I'm thinking about putting my worries on paper and seeing that float down. So I'm visualising in order to get a sense of calm. There's also an activity called grounding, and grounding is using our senses. So, your smell, sight, touch, taste and sound, and thinking about all of things in those categories that you can, see, hear, etc. This can be actually just really helpful in general if you're finding that you're losing focus, particularly in class, for example. You don't necessarily have to use all of those senses. You might just hone in on one that you find helpful. So for me, I like just to pick 5 things that I can hear. And it just brings me back to the present or back to the now. And so I can refocus rather than getting lost in my thoughts. Some people like to schedule worry time, and there's an app called Worry Time by Reach Out that you might be interested in to finding out. Others like things like journaling. I had a student a few years ago who was an older student, 17, 18-year-old male who I suggested journaling to, and he was horrified. He's 17, 18-year-old guy, and as if he's going to journal, but he actually, to his credit, gave it a go for a couple of weeks and came back to me, and I expected him to say, oh, actually, I didn't do that. But you've probably heard me say before, he came back and said, actually, it was really helpful. And I even told a friend how helpful it was. So I guess it's really finding stuff that resonates with you. Sometimes we need to actually go and talk to a professional, and a good starting point is your GP. In terms of mood or challenge or struggle, I would be suggesting that if you've been noticing maybe your mood's been low, and it's because we all have our ups and down days, but if it's been low and consistently low for more days than not over a period of 2 weeks or more, then that's really an indicator to go and see the GP. If you're finding, when we're talking about anxiety, that you're finding the anxiety stopping you from engaging in stuff that you normally would. Maybe it's stopping you from coming to school. Maybe it's stopping you going out and socialising. So when it's starting to impact our functioning, that's time when we really need to be talking to somebody about that. There are people in the community that can be of help, like psychologists and other forms of counsellors. And again, if you trust people at school, perhaps one of your favourite teachers, you can have a chat to them about where do I get information from, and you can always come and chat to me or send me an email as well. And for some people, they may need medication. So there's a whole lot of strategies. We didn't talk about distraction as another one. So you might have things in class like reading, listening to music, going for a run. And then I guess ultimately just being kind to yourself. So I'm not sure if we had any homerooms actually list off 5.
I haven't heard yet. If you bump on over there, maybe Priscilla, who's in the other room, could tell us who it is. But what I want to invite while we're waiting for that to happen is Caleb and Matthew are coming to give us a bit of a tally update for the Beanies for Brain Cancer that we've been doing. And they're going to tell us where we're up to in terms of our tally. Big thanks to Janelle. I think she will come back on and tell us who won. No, here she comes. She's going to give us a winner. Who's
our 7M. Congratulations. Somebody's going to come around to you right now.
Mr. Martin, well done, mate. He's called out bingo in the comments. Well done. And can I get Caleb and Matthew in here? They're going to give us a tally update. We want to hear where we're up to. Guys, I don't know about you guys, but I'm enjoying wearing beanies every day. And it's only $1 a day.
Only $1 a day.
Cheap as.
Yeah, I'm
really
happy to see you wearing a beanie, Goss. It's good.
Mate, unfortunately, I haven't actually paid just yet, but trust me, I will. Mr. Anderson will hold me accountable. Always does.
You accountable.
Oh, you will?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'll make sure I get the money.
What about 20 straight to you on Monday?
That's fine. I'll donate it straight to the Mark Hughes Foundation.
And so where would that put us to? Where are we up to, boys?
Well, currently we're sitting at about $5,500 as a whole school combined total, which is really good. The goal set on Monday was to try and get to $10,000, so we're still a bit of a way off, but we still got one more week of
10K. We're 5.5, and we're halfway, so we're just over where we should be, maybe.
Exactly.
I think we're doing well.
We've got one more fundraiser, and so that's the last day of term. So Friday the 3rd of July.
And is that the Mufti Day that Harry and Holly so eloquently introduced to us at the start of chapel?
Yeah.
And let's just remind everyone about that. So you bring in a gold coin and you're wearing some second-hand clothes, I do believe.
Yeah, and also try and wear a beanie if you can, because all the funds will be going to the Mark Hughes Foundation again for the Mufti Day next Friday. Basically, it'll be a normal Mufti Day, basically trying to get something thrifty if you can, but we're really trying to focus on the beanies and trying to raise funds for the Mark Hughes Foundation.
Double up. All right, the bell's just gone. Thank you, gentlemen. And just a big thank you to everyone that was involved today, particularly Priscilla and Janelle for sharing so much important info with us and their stories. So, guys, have a blessed weekend. Enjoy. Grace and peace. Oh, if you're in Year 11 and 12, come to the barbecue down out the front of Mr. Williams' room at lunchtime. Great chance to farewell our very own Liz Tommen from the front, who used to do student services in the senior school. So yeah, come have a sausage, say goodbye to Liz. See you year 11 and 12 down there. Everyone else, peace out. Let's keep raising money. Bye.
Bye.